Week 2, Video 4B. In this session, we're going to talk about copyrights, what they are, the protections they offer, and the fair uses of copyrighted material. We're going to look at international systems for protecting intellectual property, and we'll also talk about enforcement. So what is a copyright? A copyright is a monopoly where you, as the author, have control of that work you have created. It gives you protections against others from copying your work, marketing that particular material, and your protections have been given for a limited time. What copyright law does is it is in place for protection of the property of creative expression. Now, we differentiate this from what was patentable items, where you may have had a thing or a process that was protected. In this case, for a copyrighted material, it is all about the expressive, creative expression, be it music, songs, literature, books, software, to name a few. There's a criteria in place for having material copyrighted. First, it has to be an original piece of work. Second, it has to be fixed in a tangible medium. What that means is that you have to have either written it down or recorded it on some type of a mechanical or electronic device for the protections. If you had thought up this item and then you just started talking, say, at a literary area, or you were singing a song out in the open and someone heard what you were doing, they could, in fact, take that material that you have created and record it or write it for themselves, and they would have the copyright rights to it. And lastly, it must show a certain amount of creativity. Again, copyrights is to protect authors, not inventors. So, what are the protections and fair uses of copyrighted material? Protection does attach at creation. We talked about attachment in an earlier session. And under common law, it does offer that protection from the time that you have appropriately captured that content on the tangible medium. Now, it's important to understand that you do have copyright protections even though you may not have filed for a copyright through the federal system. Common law grants those protections. But if you're wanting to have federal protection, it does require a filing similar to what you had to do to file for a patent. So it is filed through the Patent and Copyright Office. If it is granted, you would then be given the permission to affix the C copyright symbol to your work. Just because something is copyrighted does not mean that some people, for specific purposes, could use that material without having to pay for it. So the purpose and character of usage is a critical thing. Things like being a critic, doing a review, or in a teaching moment are purposes that are seen to be fair use activities, therefore not requiring to have a payment or a licensing or a permission slip in order to use that material. Another dimension to that is the amount and substantiality of the work that's being taken. If you're only taking a section, segment, or portion of the work, that also can fall under the fair usage. And also, what you are doing with that particular work, if as long as it does not have an adverse effect on the marketplace for the original piece of work, then it is considered a fair use item. In our society today, this is a topic we need to discuss, and it deals with the issues around the digital age. File sharing is a rampant thing, but a different word that describes that particular activity might be known as piracy. And so what was passed back around in the 90s was the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And its purpose was to protect the authorship of copyrighted material. It makes it illegal to get around some protected devices for software, for movies that have the electronic encoding in the software or on the DVD. To protect it from being copied off, it made it illegal to come up with the hardware or the methodology to pirate that information. One area, though, that also should be called out is the fact that the ISP is not going to be held liable if illegal acts are being performed. So, a copyright gives the owner the right to reproduce, distribute, perform, display, or license his work. It is an exclusive right. And which is not an allowable fair use of copyrighted material? It would be C, profits. Because in teaching, research, or reporting, those are considered fair use areas. Now, one thing I did not mention that's probably worthwhile making clear is how long a copyright is good for. That becomes an interesting question. When we look at U.S. rules, in the U.S., a copyright is good for 70 years, 70 years, from the time authorship has been performed. Plus, it goes beyond the life of the individual. In fact, I should have restated it. It is for the life of the author plus 70 years. That's why, for certain artists, like an Elvis Presley, his works will still be good for about another 40 years. Now, when we look internationally at property rights, there are different kinds of rules. There are treaties in effect and agreements that have made. For example, the trade-related aspects of intellectual property agreements, TRIPS. It is based on membership into the organization that has said we will honor and regard the copyrights from member countries and go after those violators. But when you look at China and look at India, there are some serious issues for materials that are sent there and that are pirated and redistributed. So let's take a look at the intellectual property video I have available for you.